I understand that you started shooting your first TV commercials at like 3, and then modeling not long after that, and then acting by 7 or something like that. How did you get started just generally in doing this sort of public stuff? I mean, not most people's course of action.
Yeah, I mean, I had started my mom, people would come up to her in the grocery store and be like, oh, you should take your daughter in for commercials, she's cute or whatever, and my mom was like, okay, we'll try it, and at first it was like, okay, well, we'll put some money away for college and that type of thing, and yeah, at first I just did print stuff, and then they were like, oh, you should take your daughter to a commercial audition, so I went out for Kick cereal, and I booked the commercial, so then I became like, you know, a known commercial kid in New York.
And then the first movie, Woody Allen's?
Yeah, the first movie, I mean, I basically was a glorified extra, but it was in Woody Allen's New York Stories.
And can you talk about just those first few years after that, where now you're, I guess, pursuing work or being pursued for work in film? And I know there was Tom Hanks' daughter in Bonfire, I guess,
Yeah.
and a few other small roles. And then the big one that most people, I think, point to, I don't know if you see it this way, but the breakthrough Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah,
So.
of course, that was a big deal to get that role. I remember I auditioned like so many times for that film. I remember working with my acting teacher at the time, you know, months before I even auditioned for the role. It was a very coveted, you know, young girl's part to get.
And things must have been very different after that one. How did you notice things changing?
I mean, I knew that was a big deal to work with those people. And then after that, yeah, then I was working just in film, you know. I did Little Women after that and Jumanji. So, yeah, then I was like, a kid, one of the kid actors.
Well, what is it like to be a kid actor? I mean, I've spoken with a number of people who have very different positions looking back on it, and I just wonder, you know, they often talk about, some of them say it was entirely my decision to get into it, some of them say I was kind of nudged into it by, you know, whoever, and some of them love it when they look back at it and say it was terrific, some of them wish it never happened. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm definitely one that, you know, it's not black and white for anyone, I really don't think. I loved it. I was a kid that put on plays and, you know, always had fun doing that, and I always went to regular school too, so I never had the completely homeschooled on set. My whole life is acting. I always had the balance. So for me, yeah, I was doing that, but it wasn't abnormal to me, and especially when I moved to LA and the people I became friends with in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, like my best friend still to this day, her dad cut movie trailers, and it was never a big deal. That's what I did. I went away like a couple months out of the year, did a film, and then the rest of the time I was in school, and very as normal as can be, you know, life, other than the fact that I worked.
A lot of one-time child actors disappear after they go through that kind of the awkward phase or whatever, puberty, or and some, but a few like you, like seem to continue to work really steadily through that. And I wonder, I'm thinking what would have been within that period that really like stood out to me, it seems, was the Virgin Suicides with that.
I was going to say the same
yeah,
thing.
And that was a great role. I mean, and I wonder again, what did you feel that people now looked at you in a different way after that one? That here's somebody that not only is, you know, was a very good child actress, but could now play kind of adult serious parts.
Yeah, I think that was the first time, and I'm happy it was Sophia that like saw me in a way that still had obviously the youth and everything, but saw the other side that was like the maturing, like young teenager, and she really understood me in a way that I hadn't yet understood myself yet. So yeah, that was a beautiful film, and you know, yeah, not many people get one great movie in their career like that, and that was a very special movie to be a part of.
And obviously you worked again with her on Marie Antoinette, and that was, is it something that you guys really just got along well, or was it unrelated to the director, just a great part, another great part?
Oh no, very much related to Sophia. I know the way she likes to work and the people who she surrounds herself with, and she's very good at creating an atmosphere and chemistry of people. And I think that's why her films really stand alone. They have a very special energy about them. And yeah, I think all the girls she picked, and even Elle Fanning and everything, they have a certain sensibility about them that I think Sophia can relate to. You know, of course, when you are choosing actors for a role, if you're picking a female lead, like, you want someone that you feel like you can connect with, talk to on a certain level, and that will portray, all the sides of that person.
The last one that I will just touch upon before focusing more on All Good Things is Spider-Man. And I just am curious, I think probably most people, just because it's been seen by so many people, probably most people most closely associate you with Mary Jane. And I just wonder, how did it come about? And looking back, in terms of your life and your career, what were there positive and negative things? Do you, when you look back at that experience, how do you regard it?
Well, for me, it was always a positive experience. I remember shooting The Cat's Meow, and I was in Berlin, and Toby flew out, and Sam flew out, and Laura Ziskin, the producer, and I had a screen test after work, and I felt I had a few scenes to read with Toby, and I really felt an immediate chemistry with him, and I felt like when I left the room, it was a good thing. You just know, when it works between two people, and that was the main thing that had to happen, was this love story. And it was such a independently minded blockbuster of a film with Sam Raimi, and Toby then had done Cider House Rules and Wonder Boys, and all our villains were always really interesting actors as well. So I think in a way we set the tone for a lot of the franchises after, and I think the best ones are always when you get really interesting people, because it adds so much. It's difficult to act in those films when you have to look at nothing and feel something and work with tennis balls or whatever you're reacting to. And that film allowed me to be in so many other independent films that could then get financed, because I was pretty internationally known because of those films. And also we had such a great time. It was, our promotions were always all around the world, and nice hotel. I mean, we had great times. There's nothing,
Well, the only thing that would seem as an outsider that might be a downside of all of this success of it would be that probably any privacy or anonymity that you could ever have would, at least for a long time, be gone. Is that something that you are okay with, that you can deal with, or is it? I would think it's got to be really tough.
I feel like I've been pretty good about it. I mean, when I go out and do my day or whatever, I can really fly under the radar. I mean, even last night I was eating a burrito at the airport in the food court, and I could see people looking at me but not sure, and they just don't expect you. A lot of times they're like, "Oh, I didn't expect you not to have an entourage." I'm like, well, you can fly under the radar if you really want to.
Yeah. So it's not paparazzi, that kind of thing is not a big problem?
It depends where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are pockets of that everywhere if you look,
Yeah, sure.
they're there.
Well, with this role, which I had the opportunity to see the film this week, so it's very fresh for me, and congratulations on it. And I guess the first question, obviously, is how did you first hear about it?
All Good Things?
Yeah.
I was sent the script, and I read it immediately, and there's not many scripts that you just read all the way through and are completely entranced by. They're usually a little laborious. They're just come on. Right. And this one was so haunting, and I met Andrew that week, and I had seen Capturing the Friedmans, and we immediately hit it off, and he's such an intelligent filmmaker and person to be around, and I knew that it'd be an interesting movie.
We've just come from an event where he gave a very nice toast to you and mentioned that before he even met you, he had you in mind for this part before he thought of who would play, the part that Ryan ended up playing and all of that. What is it like, I guess, to, did it seem as obvious to you as it did to him that you were really fit for this part? This was, a part that you were perfect for in a way?
Just because someone else sees you that
Yeah.
way doesn't always mean that you see yourself
Right.
that way.
Right.
It's like why people pick and choose the movies. Just because other people see you in that, you might be beyond what they see in you, or not. It's whatever it is. It's like, it all depends. I didn't read it and think I'm perfect for this. I don't. I mean, some roles you do, but yeah, it's a tricky thing.
Yeah,
I've read it like more as a story.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this story is incredible.
And then you
this
think,
will be a great movie.
Right.
Sometimes, I think I never think like I'm perfect for the role. Like it's a weird
That's probably
thing
healthier.
to say. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Right.
But it's the director's job to
Mm-hmm.
see who he envisions for that.
How about the case that it was based on? Was that something, I mean, I hadn't heard of it before, but I guess a lot of people did. Had you been aware of it?
I didn't know before the script because, she disappeared in 82.
Yeah.
I was born in 82.
Before her.
So, but yeah, I didn't know much about the story before. A lot of, New Yorkers know about the story, though. And once you start hearing it, people start hearing about it, they're like, oh, I remember when they reopened the case, or I remember when he tried to buy an apartment in New York and they kicked him out, and it was on page 6 or whatever. So it's been a story that always keeps reappearing for a little while now.
The film, I guess, is the first credit in a little bit. There'd been a bit of a hiatus, and I'm just curious. I'd read that you'd even thought about quitting acting at one time, that you focus on other things. Is that... Sometimes people overhype a storyline. Is that true?
They definitely do.
It wasn't ever really...
I wasn't ever going to quit acting.
Yeah.
I just had to, redefine what roles and what it meant to me and, how I could... and that I needed to approach things differently. But that's just growing up, I think, for anybody.
And in another interview, you yourself said that when you came back for this one, it, quote, felt liberating. I changed the way I approach acting in films. I approach acting in films. The way I work personally before I even start filming, I took a new interest in the process. Can you explain why you think that was the case? Just what, was it just having matured, or was it something else or whatever?
Well, I think that what happened was that, once you start getting more interested in more complicated material, you have to do a lot of homework on somebody, and really it ends up being a whole separate, therapy of character in a way before you even get to talking to the director about it.
Yeah.
Because it's you who's playing it. You know the character better or the person better than anyone else. So I just, it broadened, what I could bring to a role.
And it's something, having gone through this, there's no... Even if you weren't going to quit acting, you sort of have, the reservations have gone away. You feel good about being an actor now?
I love what I do, but that doesn't mean that I won't explore directing. And I have done some shorts, but I definitely, I've been doing this too long. I have, I feel like a good, enough hold on the movie industry now where I could produce and, I trust myself more.
Another thing that came up earlier today was that you and Andrew, and I don't know if Ryan was a part of this as well, but you took a trip up to meet with the family of the presumptive victim. I don't know, I guess we're assuming she didn't run away, but can you talk about who you met and what that involved and just what you took away from that meeting?
I met Kathy Durst's brother and his wife, and, we just had dinner. And it was just really meeting them and listening to them. And Andrew had put together actually a documentary before we started filming too, with interviews of their neighbors and of Jim, her brother, and so, it's a difficult situation when you're going into someone's home. They were so generous to us, but it's, they have someone who they love who's missing. So it wasn't really researching, or I was just being there, paying respects, getting to know each other, because it's a very sensitive, thing to have somebody play your sister who's gone.
And you kind of, I hope you can talk about the fact that you got kind of a cool blessing there that about playing the character. Can you share that?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't say directly to me, but to Andrew that, yeah, she's perfect to play my sister. But even more, like, beautiful was seeing them after the premiere, and, like, they had seen the movie a few times now, but they had such love and beautiful things to say to me about how I portrayed their sister or his sister. And so, I mean, to me, like, that's so wonderful that the story was told again, and they could have some sort of, I'm sure it's not closure, but in some way, a memorial and a resurrecting of, like, something that happened that they thought probably would never be told or talked about again.
Yeah. Is it a little bit weird to hear that one of the nicest compliments that you've gotten about your performance comes from the guy who Ryan is playing himself in the movie? Have you heard? He basically said
that's
you
not
were
one of the nicest.
well, not one of the nice, but he said, "quote You were pretty much a ringer," and I think I know why he said you're not pretty much a dead ringer, because he probably wants to avoid any implications. But like, why did he? You know, is it interesting to hear that he's even reacting favorably?
It was weird.
Yeah.
The whole thing was weird. I mean, the fact that he saw the movie and, yeah, I don't really know how to take it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It is a weird thing, but the process of getting into the character it sounds like a very unusual thing. 8 weeks of rehearsal. How was that presented to you, and you were cool with it right away?
I don't see any, like, it's a different process every time. That's what's great about movies. Like, every time you go onto a different set, everyone has a different way of working. Directors approach things totally differently every time. So you never know unless you've worked with the filmmaker before. And even then, it's a different cast of actors. And, yeah, this was, another way of doing it. But we also didn't rehearse the scenes. We didn't, like, go over the scenes over and over again. It had a freshness to it when we were making the film. But we talked a lot about the movie and these people, and individually I talked to Andrew for hours, and then Ryan would separately too, because we have such, like, strong places and opinions we're coming from, and for them to stay together had to be very delicately balanced, and where she's coming from, and not to be this, victim, and him to just be this monster of a person. So that love story had to be very much there and very romantic. Is
it correct that there was quite a bit of improvisation on this one?
There was some, yeah. I mean, for all the very, like, in romantic things, yeah, of course you have to add, like, a lot of life into that, and you don't stick to your lines that way.
Right.
You gotta add more
right.
oomph to those things sometimes.
And I guess when you're making a movie about a kind of a dark story, sometimes the set, it's important to keep things light, and I understand also that, there were pranks, there were fun things that took place, and maybe you can share a little bit about that.
I mean, me and, Ryan and I, we'd have, like, funny nicknames for each other. They were weird. But not pervy, but just funny.
Right.
He called me Bob. He named himself Math.
Hey.
I just, but we really laughed. He's a goofy guy, you know what I mean? We had a good time together. You need that. It's not, we're not super,
right.
We weren't hating each other or anything like that. But then when Kirsten was there, it was great because she's incredible and hilarious. So we had fun. We messed with Ryan's dog a little bit.
I was going to say, ironically, the dog came into this.
Yeah, I know. Dressing his dog up in high heels and old-timey hats. Taking photos on iPhoto booth or whatever.
I want to just also quote another thing you said, which ties into the next question, which was that, quote, "I have never been so vulnerable in a film before. I feel like I showed myself the most, I guess on a literal level that's true, but also I don't think you're referring to, like, the shower scene or something. Can you talk about what you mean by that?
I meant emotionally.
I know. But, like, expand.
Well, I mean, I had the opportunity, I grew up and I feel like I've done roles that were very age appropriate, and now I'm getting older, so there are different roles, obviously. I think that what she went through and the years that she went through them, I had a lot of things that I could show in this film, because she starts off as this, like, young, kind of innocent girl that just moved out of her parents' house from Long Island to this, you know, emotionally like on the verge woman. So it's like there was a lot in there that I could, you know, show myself.
I wanted to just see if I can ask you about a few specific scenes. The scene leading up to and following the abortion. We don't obviously see the process, but you had to, I guess, think, you know, why would my character agree to do this? Why would, you know, all this stuff? And can you talk about, those were some of the more powerful moments in the movie, and just wonder how you approached them.
Well, for Katie, you brought up the, you know, scene where I decided to get an abortion because he's not comfortable having children. And I remember working with Andrew, and I said to him, well, what, you know, if it were me in this situation, and me now, like, talking almost, like, through Katie's vision, I would say she's very ambitious. She's, like, knows that this man can't be a father. So to do this, it's not like she will never be a mother again. Like, she could meet someone else or get a divorce, or, you know, her chances to have children are not over, even though it's a horrendous thing that she has to do. It's also, you know, okay, if I just get through this, okay, if I just get through this. It's like constantly these things where she just needs to, you know, keep pushing through.
And you felt that she also might not want to bring a child into the situation, right? I mean,
exactly. Well, that's what I meant.
Oh, sorry.
With the father, you know, him being a father
right.
to this child.
Yeah, it could have been bad.
Yeah, then you're tied to this person that's already starting to be really odd, and things are being exposed that you didn't know about him. I mean, in terms of her perspective, yeah.
Is there a moment when she kind of realizes that this guy is, like, does she really, do you think she suspected that he was a problem earlier than before she extricated herself from the situation? I mean, there are moments, whether it was the, you know, grabbing by the hair and certain other scenes there where, you know, I don't know if, I guess it could be somebody's just kind of having a bad day, but it's a weird kind of behavior this guy was.
Yeah, in the beginning it's just like him talking to himself, little things like that. And I think when you're that in love and young, you're just like, oh, he's going through a hard time. Yeah, we moved from Vermont, so, you know, whatever, he's stressed out. Whatever it is, I think that you can excuse a lot of behavior when you're blindly in love with someone. So, yeah, you know, when that scene happens where he pulls me out of my mother's house, it's like, okay, well, now she decides to get a divorce, but, you know, she decides to pack after that, actually, and leave. And then, you know, he threatens her with something else. So it's constantly like this push and pull with each other. And, yeah, I mean, it's what an emotionally abusive relationship becomes. You do cut off your friends. You don't talk to your family about it. You're, like, stuck in this, like, hole.
Not to harp on the aforementioned shower scene, but I understand there was a motivation really for it. It's not just gratuitous nudity. So,
and it's so dark. I mean, it was just actually what it actually ended up. Well, in my opinion, what it was okay. Right before that, she gets accepted to college, and then has read that she's been accepted to this medical school, and he goes and jumps in this icy water, and their boat's been floating out, so he gets the boat back and is writing their phone number and is acting really weird, and it's all about him being abandoned, and so it's kind of like an offer. It's, you know, she's getting what she wants by, you know, coming to the shower with him, making sure, you know, just reaffirming her love for him so that she can get what she wants. So, I mean, it was a decision because it was, you know, a manipulation, and that was
that she could play the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So having been very close to the story and the people involved, and, you know, the evidence, what do you think actually happened to her?
I mean, based on the fact that this family did not do as much as they could have because of their financial situation, I mean, they could have had every detective out there looking for her, and they really brushed it under the rug to a certain degree. So, to me, if your daughter-in-law goes missing and you have the means to, you know, either cover it up or find her, they certainly made it their prerogative to cover it up.
Right.
So I do think definitely they had something to do with it, whatever happened.
I wanted to just sort of close by asking you about some other stuff that I hear you're working on next, which people can look forward to. Two in particular, the Lars von Trier and the Walter Salles. Can you talk about what those will be?
What those will be?
What we know what they are, but Melancholia on the Road. But like what it involves, who you'll be portraying, and how you feel about it.
Lars, I worked with this past summer in Sweden, and I mean, I can't say really what the movie is totally about, but I had a wonderful time working with him.
And
one of the best directors I've worked with in terms of working with actors and.
No mutilation, hopefully, or anything like that. Okay. No. And On the Road, that's going to be
On the Road. I just finished yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, that Walter is also a rare director in the way that he works with actors too. Yeah, and the guys are great in that film, and that was a really special movie to be a part of, especially because it's taken like 3 generations to get made now.
Yeah. And as far as the Spider-Man situation, are you disappointed with how it played out? You had said this is bad?
No, it's just funny. Like, why would I be disappointed? We had 3 great films.
Yeah.
And now they're doing it with, now they're changing.
No, well, not with who's doing it, but the way it kind of the way that it ended.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I think 3 is a good way to end. I think.
Yeah. I know what a trilogy is. I don't know what the 4th would be if it had.
Yeah, I think that's normally what it should be. So I think they made the right decision. The only thing I wish is we would have known that the last one really was the last one. Because, there's a feeling when then you just, you cherish it a little more, you know what I mean? Or you just feel like, there's a different process of saying goodbye,
Right. Well, the very last thing. 20, 30, 50 years from now, what would...
I hope I'm alive, healthy.
No, but is there somebody whose career you really admire, you want to kind of emulate that trajectory, or is there something that you specifically hope to, a story that you want to be able to tell, or just any, if we check back in on you, somebody just drops in on you at that point, where would you like to be at that point, down the road?
Still working.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult thing. There's definitely actresses that I admire, and of who I really like and the way her career is I really love Julianne Moore. She's very normal. She does, she has always been in big films, small films, worked with amazing directors, but also seems like a very authentic, smart, cool lady. So, and I've met her. So I think that I just want to continue doing films that I think are good stories to tell, and hopefully later down the line they'll still want to hire me, even when I get older. So that'd be nice.
I think so. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.